Sukeban Deka, the Delinquent Detective, is a 2-episode action drama anime released in Japan in 1991. Before we get into that though, first we need to clear up exactly what a Sukeban actually is. On one end of the 1980s delinquent spectrum, you have Bancho, the stereotypical Jotaro Kujo style delinquents. And then on the other hand, well, you have Sukeban. Sukeban are usually depicted wearing a sailor uniform with a much longer skirt than any schoolgirl would usually wear, and I'm not even entirely sure they exist anymore. They definitely come straight out of the 1980s. The hero and main character of Sukeban Deka is 16-year-old delinquent Asami Asaki. With a reputation for being one of the toughest girls in Japan, she's constantly being put into harm's way whenever the situation calls for it. Sukeban Deka opens on a prison that Saki's being detained in for a crime that she didn't commit. Fortunately for Saki, the authorities need her for a job that they just can't do on their own, and in exchange for lifting her sentence, she's been offered a deal that she can't refuse. She either re-enters school as an undercover detective, or her mother gets the chair. Why she was put into a correctional facility in the first place is left up entirely to your imagination, as this OVA is an adaptation of an earlier plotline from the manga that this anime is based on. In the vacuum left by her absence, 3 new evil schoolgirls, the Mizuchi sisters, have taken over the high school, and it's up to Saki to expose their shady dealings with yo-yo flinging justice. The rest of the cast of Sukeban Deka are a bunch of stereotypical stock characters, and they're really just there to keep the plot moving. Every cop drama needs a hard-boiled detective, and every detective in training needs a comic relief sidekick. Who is this girl on the VHS tape box, by the way? I've seen this anime about 10 times, and I honestly couldn't tell you if I tried. Just one of life's mysteries, I guess. Despite an almost all-female cast, a love story isn't the defining characteristic of this anime. It's listed in many places as a shoujo series, but it certainly doesn't feel like one. Double crosses, bribery, dramatic action scenes. It's more of a police drama than I was really expecting. In fact, it might possibly be the most manly shoujo series that I've ever seen. Sukeban Deka feels like a combination of Cromartie High School and Otoko Juku. And it reminded me so much of Shonen Jump's Bancho series that I had to look up exactly who wrote it. Imagine my shock when I found out Sukeban Deka was written by a man. There was once a time where shoujo series were really cool shows like The Rose of Versailles, and Sukeban Deka comes from that same 1970s stock. Being a straight-to-video release also gave them a lot of creative freedom since they didn't need to air it on TV. Every single scene in Sukeban Deka is deliberately dramatic, from the action sequences right down to the art style. They really try to throw every cliche they can think of right at you. You might like it a little bit more if you go into it with that particular mindset. For a little extra fun, try and keep track of every time that they zoom in on a snake. It's also worth noting that Sukeban Deka's manga introduced the use of yo-yos as a form of defense way before Ness from the Mother series was even an idea. All this anime was missing was a motorcycle chase scene. It also has those detailed Dazaki-style freeze frames that I like so much. The official subtitles, which I believe are the only ones available, are, like the dub, hilariously inaccurate at times. ADV played it pretty loose with the translation, but I almost want to say it fits a show like this perfectly.
Enough! Saki! If you don't quit hanging around me like crap out of a carp's butt, I'll beat you senseless!
Well, in a 1970s kung fu movie sort of way anyway. Sukeban Deka was licensed by ADV Films, but has since gone long out of print. Luckily, they released this on everything from VHS to DVD, and even Laserdisc if you can believe that. Speaking of Laserdisc, only the first half ever even came out in America, which would have left you on a cliffhanger halfway through if this was the only way that you saw it. Can you imagine shelling out the amount of money you would need for a Laserdisc player, only to find out you would have to finish this anime on a VHS tape? This wasn't even the first time they did this either. ADV only released the first 8 episodes of Evangelion on Laserdisc 2. I suspect the advent of DVD around 1999 probably had something to do with that. Before I got this anime in a VHS tape lot off of eBay, I had absolutely no idea that it was part of a much larger series from the 1970s that popularized the delinquent schoolgirl archetype. Sukeban Deka had a 22-volume manga, 3 television dramas, and 2 movies before this anime even came out. But even with all of that, a sequel, for some reason, it just never happened. It's especially odd considering how many Bancho and delinquent series were being released around that time. This anime did really make me want to find out just what happened to put Saki in that prison in the first place, which is just about the best thing that you could possibly say about an OVA made to promote a manga that you've never heard of. The Sukeban Deka series also had a few video games released for the Sega Mark III and Nintendo's Famicom Entertainment System, none of which are particularly noteworthy, but the commercial for the Nintendo game does give us a little bit of an idea of what another Sukeban Deka anime may have looked like.
野望に燃える暗黒集団、それを撃破するのは風間三姉妹、そして君だ。ファミコンアクションゲームスケバンデカ3。
So where does this connect to Kill la Kill, you may ask? Sukeban Deka, the TV series, was released in 1984 and follows the same Asami Asaki from the anime, but this time without the cartoony pink hair. Put under similar circumstances, she's been hired as an undercover detective in this series too, and each episode follows her taking down corrupt politicians and teachers that are up to no good. Studio Trigger loved this series so much that they based Ryuko from their then-running anime series on Saki. The similarities aren't just down to their personalities either. Having the same colored uniforms, well, that's one thing. But the entire ending of the anime is an almost one-for-one recreation of the credits sequence from Sukeban Deka. If that weren't enough, Ryuko also has the exact same red gloves from the Sukeban Deka movies. Now, calling her a ripoff of Saki might be a little bit harsh, but I could see the argument honestly go either way. If you like it, it's an homage, and if you don't like it, it's a ripoff. I think I'll let you decide which side of the fence to be on with that one. Both series also use question marks for voice actors. Fully Cooley did this too now that I think about it, which makes me think this is probably just a long-running gag at this point. In the anime, they made a big deal about Saki using handcuffs, but in the live-action TV show she uses the unbreakable strings of her acrylic yo-yo instead. If I had to choose between one or the other, I'd say the yo-yo is much, much cooler. It also makes this incredibly satisfying sound when she uses it. When you hear that yo-yo fly, man, you just know things are gonna get good. After the success of the original Sukeban Deka, they expanded on the concept a number of times, and really dialed it up to 11 with the creatively named Sukeban Deka 2. The main character in that series is named Saki as well, but this time it's a different character, using Saki as a codename instead. I haven't seen all of it, but she lived most of her life with this Lord Humongous style mask, and when it's broken with the yo-yo, she becomes the newly appointed Sukeban Deka to fill Saki's shoes. Yeah, it's exactly as ridiculous as it sounds, and it's probably even more crazy when you actually see it. Sergeant Frog actually parodies this in episode 144 if you wanted to check that out for some reason. The original Sukeban Deka must have been really, really popular. There was only a single year before the first series and the second one were released. Some of the actors in Sukeban Deka 2 also spun off into their own idol group, and the thought of an idol group with delinquents in it sounds like one of the best ideas I've never heard of. The Sukeban Deka series has never received an English release, but the first 2 movies did come out as a double pack on DVD if you want to hunt those down. And if all of that still is not enough, there's also Sukeban Chainsaw, which, while not related to Sukeban Deka in any way, I felt was worth mentioning just because it has the word Sukeban in the title. Well, thank you very much for seeing this video to the end. If you want to hear me talk about more obscure anime and other oddities, all you have to do is click subscribe and click the bell. Apparently the subscribe button does absolutely nothing now, so be sure to hit both of them or else you won't be notified when I actually put up new videos. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again later.